What's up guys, my name is Your Heroes and welcome back to more Gates of Hell news. Yep, another update news that Gates of Hell has released on January the 21st, so as of yesterday, and this is the official announcement of part 2 being updated, which was, if you haven't checked out my last video, which was on about the release of this update, which included new maps to Frontline as well as new Soviet human model skins to the game. So if you haven't checked out that video, then make sure you go check out in the top right hand of your screen, or it will be linked down below. But today is all about the actual release of it and how actually it's updated. I played Frontline and it's all about what the Frontline updates have done for this game, because as I said, I've got quite a biased opinion about Frontline, which is how the defending or the attacking team is actually quite impact from it. I think the defending side got a major advantage, but in this update I have found significant improvement in the attacking side, significant. And the reason is because I played a couple games with the attacking side, specifically only the attacking side. I know there's been updates to the defending side as well, but specifically I want to play the attacking side, especially the Americans, because I think they're probably one of the more weaker factions when it comes to Frontline. I know Finland's maybe probably one of the weakest, but I think America's certainly up there with one of the weaker factions when it comes to Frontline game mode, just personally my opinion as well. So today we're going to be looking at the updates here, as you can see highlighted right here, about what they have added to the attacking side of it and whether I think it's been a good change. So if you guys want to see more of this news update content, make sure you subscribe, hit that like button, and stay tuned to more content like this. And as you know, they've added more maps to the game. They've added to Frontline, which was of course your Talvasota DLC one, and of course your Liberation one, which I mentioned in the last one. But that's not the main focus. The main focus is all about the major updates to certain cooldown times, to the attacker and defenders timing, which I have all put in a Word document right here so it's easier for you guys to see. First one being the Frontline is updated in Frontlines that spawn positions change only if the first flag of a phase is fully captured instead of just being contested. I think this is actually quite a good change. I think this is probably one of the more important change for the attacking side, as before when you were, so what they're saying is that when you contested a flag, you know, when the flag was kind of being contested by two teams, when it was like white instead of kind of like green where you capture it, you were able to spawn your units in kind of further up when it was being contested. Now you have to wait till it's actually fully captured, which I think is still good for the attacking side, as this kind of gives you more momentum and more of to try and capture that first crucial flag, because that basically means once you've captured that first flag, allows you to spawn a lot further up with units, and it gives you, once you've captured that first flag, it also gives you more manpower, more resources to play with, which allows you to kind of attack the second point more quickly, and even towards the third point more quickly. So making sure you capture that first flag is probably one of the most now crucial points of Frontline game mode. So I actually kind of like this update, and I think kind of having them contested, you know, being able to spawn units while the flag is being contested was kind of a really not great idea. So I kind of really like that one. So that was the first update of the Frontline. The next one was the updated Panzer V-A to use heavy tank unit timer modifier for Frontline instead of a medium tank. This is quite an interesting one, because I first of all, I didn't actually know you could actually modify the timer for heavy and medium tanks and light tanks. I knew there was a timer where I knew there was a modified timer that you could change it just in general, you know, for the starting of the match, but I didn't know there was actually a timer for between spawning heavy tanks and medium tanks. So If you don't know what this is, basically, when you're in the game, you'll see that there's a timer that counts down for when you're in the game. So you can see it's like 2 minutes or 1 minute 30 before you can actually spawn any medium or heavy tank. But now, for the Panzer V-A to use as a heavy tank timer for Frontline, so they're basically saying the Panzer V-A is now going to be used as a heavy tank instead of a medium tank, even though I think the Panzer V-A is a medium tank. If not, then let me know in the comments down below. But I'm pretty sure the Panzer V-A is a medium tank. Or if the Panzer V is that a Panzer? Oh no, everyone's now gonna crucify me in the comments. Let me know in the comments down below. I completely forgot. Basically now what they're saying is that the unit timer modifier for Frontline, it's basically going to be instead of a medium tank, it's now going to be classed as a heavy tank, I think, if I got that right. So that is actually quite I didn't really play as the Germans. Again, I played as the Americans. I didn't really see any huge benefits to that. I think this is still quite considering how many tanks the Germans have already in the game, I don't see this as a massive decrease or benefit to the game, to the Frontline game mode. So, but if you guys have played as the Germans multiple times and you think this is a good change, then there you go. That's a good change. That's all there is to it. I'm sorry, it's pretty simple. Next one is updated cooldown to all armored vehicles in wheeled vehicles tab with 30-second cooldown to be in line with 60-second cooldown of other armored vehicles. That's quite an interesting one. So what they're saying is that, so the cooldown now for armored vehicles in wheeled tab with 30-second cooldown, so it was 30 seconds, is now to be in line with 60-second cooldown of other armored vehicles. That's quite, I kind of like that. I think this is another good change. I think with having different armored vehicles at different cooldown times, I think that can get quite confusing. With that, you know, you're trying to decide, oh, which armored vehicle do I use at this specific point or at this specific point. Now that they're all kind of at one kind of cooldown timer, I think this is actually a very good change, and this allows you to actually play with more vehicles, with more armored vehicles, armored vehicles, as this gives you more options to pick out more armored vehicles when you are spawning them. So I think this is actually a very, very good change, and I think having them all together cooldown as one is probably the best way you can decide what armored vehicle you want. Whereas if it was like certain vehicles were 30 seconds and units and certain units were 60 seconds, it makes it harder to decide which armored vehicle you want to bring out, and also it kind of limits you as well, because if you want a specific armored vehicle but it's not out yet because it's on a 60-second cooldown instead of a 30-second cooldown, you're limited to, you're kind of wasting time because you're waiting for that 60-second, you're waiting for that longer 60-second cooldown. But I still think this is an advantage because you're all getting the armored vehicle cooldown as one. You know, it's all coming out at the same time, so you can pick it at the same time. So good change there. Next one is moved game duration lobby setting for Frontlines into advanced sections. I didn't actually see this because when I moved game duration lobby settings for Frontline in advanced section, I actually, when I clicked on the advanced section, so at the bottom, if you're wondering how you get into the advanced section, I'll maybe put a picture up of it on the screen right now, but you'll see it at the very bottom. When you set up, you know, the game for Frontline, you'll see the advanced button at the very bottom of the screen. And this allows you to give you more options for like whether you want it daytime or nighttime, how long you want the game to last, you know, like 50 minutes, 60 minutes, 70 minutes. So there's a load of options that allows you to give you for Frontline. So I might put a picture of that if I remember. Okay, now onto the more kind of important points here, which is increased CP for Frontline's defender side from 110, 140, 170, so that's what it was, to now, which is the updated version, 125, 150, and 175. I've already said how quite the defenders get this advantage where I think they're quite OP, and now they're actually getting more CP for this. I think this could be quite bad. But then again, if we're looking at the other points for the attackers, I think this could balance it out. So I want to first have a look at the next one. I know I will talk about this in a second, but I want to have a look at the attackers. So whether to see whether the attackers, whether this updated point here balances out the defender side for this point here. So the increased frontline units timer modifier for attackers infantry has gone from 0.33 to 0.66. So now it's even longer. And the increased frontline unit timers modifier for attackers and defenders, so it's not just attackers, it's now defenders' vehicles, so it's now vehicles from 0 to 1. That is very interesting. And they've increased the frontline unit timer modifier for attacker light tanks from 0.25 to 0.5. And they've also increased the frontline unit timer for attacker medium tanks from 0.75 to 1. And then they've also increased the initial unlock timer for the M36 GMC late from 360 to 720. Wow, so a lot of big changes here, a lot of big changes. Let's just go through that one by one. So let's first start with the CP. So that is actually, I don't think this is a terrible change. I think this is quite a decent change because knowing that they've upgraded the attacking side, because the game is now effectively longer. The game is now much longer because these unit timer modifiers are now much longer. So the game's going to last a lot longer. So therefore, they've increased the CP for defenders, therefore making it kind of a more balanced factor for defenders to get out their units, you know, for the first stage, essentially for the first capture point and second capture point, which is the most important for defenders, or at least building up their defense at the back if that's what the defenders choose to do. So I think this is quite, I usually say, I've said that the defenders are hugely one-sided here and I think they're getting the advantage, but I think this quite balances out quite well with the attackers, infantry and vehicles and light tanks, medium tanks being longer to take out. I think this balances it out well, but I'm hoping Barbed Wire Studios or Gates of Hell have got to realise that the defenders side are still quite OP. I still think they're quite high up on, I still think they take the advantage side. And I played a couple games, sorry, where I played as the Americans and I put it on heroic AI difficulty against the Germans, and I actually won the game. And I noticed a huge difference in the timing and the timer of it all, of how units are now longer to take out. Infantry, vehicles, especially vehicles, you know, light tanks, medium tanks. It took for ages before the game actually started for me to actually spawn stuff, but the timer, you actually got longer, you got a longer set of time to spawn stuff as well. So you had to wait like 2 minutes, I think, before you had to wait. I think before it was like maybe like a minute and a half, maybe slightly before. Now it's like 2 minutes or something like that. I didn't properly check the time because I was getting my units all organized, but it's definitely longer before the actual game starts to get your units out, and it just makes the game a lot longer. And for some reason, it actually fits it quite well. It just seems like making the game slightly longer just is slightly more satisfying, because knowing that the game lasts longer, this is what this game mode is kind of for. It's for long kind of games. It's for kind of lasting about, but I put the timer on for about half an hour. Again, I that's what I usually set it to, because to really try and test myself, I guess. But using that half an hour, I actually almost got to the end. I was only about 3 capture points away, but I won anyway on the amount of infantry that I killed. But that's besides the point. I think that having all this really does actually balance out the defending side going up in points, going up for the CP. I think honestly all this balances out one defending point. But that just shows how still quite OP the defending side is. And I think this does now make it for a more balanced. I say a more balanced. I still think that defenders side is more OP, but I think this is now becoming less OP. I think it's becoming a lot slightly more balanced in the scale. I still think there's some work to do for the attackers to still get that wee bit more of an advantage, or to at least make it like a balanced kind of scale, because just now it's like the defenders is kind of like, I went from here, originally it was like defenders were here, attackers were here, now it's kind of gone like this. So it's kind of dropped a wee bit and it's becoming a wee bit more balanced. But just now I still think the defenders are getting more, but I still think they're still a high level of an advantage. But I can't believe it takes pretty much 4 points to balance out one defending AI upgrade. AI side, defending side. It's quite mad. I think that's kind of this is why I think that the defending side is still OP, because the fact that you need 4 points to upgrade your attack to try and for one defending side of an upgrade balances that out. It's kind of sad. I'm not gonna lie, it really is sad. But I have to say, I do like these changes. I think for the attacking side, for, you know, going on kind of the attacking side, I think this is a very good change. I think this makes it for a much more of an interesting game, and it allows you, and it makes the attackers have to really think what they have to bring out, because you have to wait that considerably longer for your heavy, lights and medium tanks to come out, and especially your infantry as well, because the infantry is probably one of the most longest you have to wait for it to be ready. So in that case, I really do think that this is brilliant change from Barbed Wire Studios, and I think this does balance it out very well. You know, it's not bad. I think this is a very good change. I think overall, brilliant change. And of course, the increased initial unlock timer for the M36 GMC, which is kind of like, which is an American armored car, I believe, with 50 cal on top, I think it is, from 360 to 720. That's quite high. That's a very big increase in time. I think this is probably this is not worth it. From 360 to 720 seconds, I think you should have probably put that to maybe about 600 seconds. I know I'm not very good at minutes and all that. Someone else can work it out down below. Someone else can be the mathematician down here. We're not about math here. But yeah, I think that should have probably been about 650, maybe 640 seconds instead of 720. I think that's too much of an increase of a time for just to unlock a M36 GMC late. That's quite ridiculous. I'm sorry, that is quite ridiculous. But other than that, guys, yeah, that is the Frontline updates for you. What do you think of these changes? Do you like them? Do you not like them? Do you think that now that the game is going to be lasting a wee bit longer because of these timers modifiers for the attacking and defending units, when they're, you know, actually allowed to be able to bring them out? Do you think these are good changes, or do you think it's now game mode is now just too long and you think it's just now a waste of time? Let me know your comments down below. But other than that, guys, that is it for today. And if you want to check out my most recent video, which was all about the new Frontline game mode, these type of changes, updates, as well as new maps and the Soviet Union's new human models, make sure you click left here. But other than that, guys, thank you so much for watching. Adore your sport, and I will see you in the next video. See you later, and goodbye.